Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Gunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Mavidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. May the divine being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the divine being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto thee, unto us, and to all your beloved children everywhere. Oh, dearly beloved, make it so. So namaste, everyone, and welcome to our Wednesday evening reading and discussion of the book Realizing God, a collection of the talks given by Swami Prabhavananda, some of the talks given by Swami Prabhavananda during the years from the late 1930s to the early 1970s. This is an absolutely unique collection because it was compiled by one of his devotees, Nalini Edith Tipple. She took the transcripts, typed transcripts of each of the talks that he gave on the same subject, and with her wisdom and editing skill, pulled together the best from each of those iterations of a particular talk. Say it was a talk on spiritual disciplines. It was the best of all of the talks that he had given on spiritual disciplines. So we are being treated here to the very cream of what Swami Prabhavananda had to offer us. So that's the context in which we're working. Our beloved reader, Haima, who will take us forward. But before we do, is there anything anyone would like to ask or comment from your own wisdom or experience, or any concern that you have before we proceed? All right, dears, please, Haima, let us know where we are in the book and then begin.
Sure, Brother Shankara. Good evening and namaste, everybody. We are on page 154 in the real book, actual book, not PDF. And I will go back one paragraph so that we can connect better to what I'm going to be reading. So I will start at second paragraph of 154.
And what is the topic that will...
It's Buddha. We are actually in the chapter Buddha.
Okay, very good.
Reading. Yes.
Love to hear it, yes.
Yes. Here it is. I shall read to you in Buddha's words the 5 forms of meditation. Said the disciple, teach me, O Lord, the meditations to which I must devote myself in order to let my mind enter into the paradise of the Pure Land. Buddha said, there are 5 meditations. The first meditation is the meditation of love, in which you must so adjust your heart that you long for the weal and welfare of all beings, including the happiness of your enemies.
Weal, by the way, for those of you who don't know the word, W-E-A-L.
W-E-A, yes.
Health. Physical, mental, and psychological health.
Health and welfare of all beings, including the happiness of your enemies. You have to send a thought of love towards all beings in the universe. The second meditation is the meditation of pity. It makes you think of all beings in distress, vividly representing in your imagination their sorrows and anxieties, so as to arouse a deep compassion for them in your soul. The third meditation is the meditation of joy, in which you think of the prosperity of others and rejoice with their rejoicing. You have to be free of jealousy. The fourth meditation is the meditation on impurity, in which you consider the evil consequences of corruption, the effects of sin and diseases. The fifth meditation is the meditation on serenity, in which you rise above love and hate, tyranny and oppression, wealth and want, and regard your own fate with impartial calmness and perfect tranquility. That's what we read before, and I just wanted to connect
There's a word in that last paragraph that starts with P, among the very last words.
The fifth meditation is the meditation on serenity, in which you rise above love and hate, tyranny and
Tyranny. Okay.
tyranny and oppression.
Tyranny, that's the word.
Tyranny. Okay, sorry. Tyranny and oppression, wealth and want, and regard your own fate with impartial calmness and perfect tranquility.
Thank you, dear.
That's what we read last time. We stopped, and now I'm going to read the actual start. Buddha was only interested in showing the way of life to those who were ready to follow the way. He said, a man hit by a poisoned arrow. His friends hasten to the doctor. The latter is about to draw the arrow out, but the wounded man cries, I will not have this arrow drawn out until I know who shot it, whether a woman or a Brahmin or a Vaishya or a Sudra, to which family he belonged, whether he was tall or short, and so on. How ridiculous. There should be no speculation in spiritual life, no theorizing, but following that which will lead us to complete freedom from suffering and misery to that ocean of blissful existence. That is what meant by religion. Organized religion has to have certain theories and dogmas to which millions can subscribe. But when great teachers come, such as Buddha or Christ or Ramakrishna, they are only interested in giving freedom to every individual. By their power, they show us knowledge and illumination. There are scribes and Pharisees in every age, but religion is transmitted by one who has authority. Sri Ramakrishna would ask every teacher he knew, have you seen God? Have you gotten the command from God to teach? Book learning and the study of scriptures do not make one a teacher of God. A teacher has to know God. And so Buddha pointed out, for Brahman I know, and the world of Brahman, and the path which leadeth unto it. Yeah, I know it even as one who has entered the Brahman world and has been born within it. End quotes.
Now notice
Any comments, Brother Shan?
that the Buddha was said not to believe in God. But it wasn't that he didn't believe in God. It's just he said, I don't want to speak of it. Let's speak of the way, let's speak of the condition, the conditions, the four conditions of suffering, and then the Eightfold Path, how to remove that suffering. He said, I don't want to talk about what lies behind. And the reason being is that there was so much priestcraft and corruption that he just didn't want to get into that argument between all of these factions. He just said, I have realized, just said, I have come to know the truth and I can transmit it to you. And so let's do that together. Any comments or questions or concerns?
I think he concentrated on the path that leads to the Brahman, that is God, actually, right? That's what we
That's
call.
what he's saying.
Yes.
But then he didn't say anything more about it.
Nothing more. Right.
He says, I know Brahman.
Thank you.
Which was that is the defining characteristic of the teacher who has the commandment, that they know God, they know Brahman. So he was saying, I have the commandment. Now listen to my teachings. And so, how many uncountable millions of people have been saved from suffering over the centuries by actually following the Buddhist path? Many, many, uncountable millions all around the world, but particularly in Southeast Asia, which is where Buddhism had its deepest penetration. There and in Tibet and some other few places, Buddhism really took root. Thailand, for example, is absolutely a wonderful Buddhist country. And Thai forest Buddhism is a well-known path to salvation. One of the friends of our center, Gareth Young, is an ordained Thai forest Pure Land Buddhist teacher. And sometime in this coming year, we will have him speak to us again about that path. Anything else from anyone? Okay, please read on, dear.
Buddha is called an agnostic because he did not define the nature of God. When he was about to die, one of his disciples asked, Holy Sir, do I understand you to say that there is a God? He said, Did I say that? And another disciple said, Do I understand you to say that there is no God? And he said, Did I say that? Naturally, one might conclude that he was an agnostic, but he was a true knower of God. When you say that God exists, immediately you begin to feel and think, oh, he exists here, he exists there, he exists in space. But where does space come from? Take away time and space and relativity. Can you have any conception of what the truth is?
And just hold on to that thought for a moment.
Yes.
Read that thought again. Get rid of time, space, and relativity. What happens? Please read that again.
Yes, I will. Let's see. Buddha is called an agnostic because he did not define the nature of God. When he was about to die, one of his disciples asked, Holy Sir, do I understand you to say that there is a God? He said, Did I say that? And another disciple said, Do I understand you to say that there is no God? And he said, Did I say that? Naturally, one might conclude that he was an agnostic, but he was a true knower of God. When you say that God exists, immediately you begin to feel and think, oh, he exists here, he exists there, he exists in space. But where does space come from? Take away time and space and relativity. can you have any conception of what the truth is?
There you are. This is why we are embedded in time, space, and relativity, so that we can get some conception of what God is. But the Buddhist path won't have you focus on God. It will have you focused on the Eightfold Path and the realization of God comes spontaneously, as it did for the Buddha. Anything else from anyone? Okay, dear.
If Buddha says ignorance comes attachment. From attachment come the impressions of deeds of past lives. From this arises ego sense. From ego sense springs the false identity with the body and mind. From sense contact arises feeling and sensation.
Okay, please note
Yes.
that this is the exact same formulation given by Sri Krishna in the Gita. So I'm going to ask you to read that again.
Sure.
And go back and as we read that, hear that again.
There are two more lines.
Remember from, I'm not good at remembering the chapters, but it's like chapter 7 of the Gita, in which Krishna says in his own way this very same thing.
There are a couple of more lines, Brother Shankara, then I go back and read the whole paragraph. From attachment springs the deeds which cause rebirth. Such is the origin of the whole mass of suffering. Now I'll go back and read that whole thing. Buddha says, from ignorance comes attachment. From attachment comes the impressions of deeds of past lives. From this arises ego sense. From ego sense springs the false identity with the body and mind. From sense contact arises feeling and sensation. From sensation springs the thirst. From thirst comes attachment. From attachment spring the deeds which cause rebirth. Such is the origin of the whole mass of suffering.
Now, of course, the Buddha came a good deal later than Sri Krishna, and I'm sure he knew the Gita from its first word to its last. But I don't think he's quoting the Gita or even paraphrasing the Gita. He's just speaking from his own knowledge, the same wisdom and knowledge that is in the Gita. But this is if any one of us rose to this level of illumination, then we would say it too in our own words. If we stuck around and if we remained as a teacher, if we got the commandment, then we would say it, but we would say it in our own words. We would sometimes quote or paraphrase the great teachers, but we would also find a way to make it known that there is a very particular way of seeing it right now in this moment, which is what each of the Swamis that in Prabhrajikas that speak to us, that's exactly what they tell us. In this moment, you can see it right here and right now, and here's how. Any comments or questions or concerns from anyone? Okay, very good.
Buddha then points out that suffering can be overcome by the noble kind of wisdom, by knowledge. Suffering is a direct, immediate experience through our mind and senses and body. There has to be another direct and immediate experience to come out of that suffering. Buddha calls this the noble kind of wisdom, which can be had while living here on earth. It is not just an intellectual understanding or simply having faith. It is a matter of experience.
Not just a matter of having what, dear, I missed that word.
It is a matter of experience. Experience.
No, but then you said afterwards, not just a matter of.
It is not just an intellectual understanding or simply having faith. It is
Faith.
it is a matter of experience.
Very good.
I can,
It's the word
I,
faith that I missed.
yeah, I can read this para one more time. Seems
It's all right, dear. It's all right. No,
okay.
I just missed that one word.
Okay. And then he points out that this noble kind of wisdom can be attained by the noble conduct of life and the noble earnestness of meditation. Both are essential, and not until through these means the evils of ignorance and misconception become washed away can spiritual peace be attained. Come, disciple.
They all use this metaphor of washing away, as in Chaitanya's prayer, bathing in his name, bathing in his name. Sri Ramakrishna uses the bathing metaphor over and over, bathing in the Ganges, bathing in the Pandit Kamarpukur. It really is a matter. It isn't, this stuff is not stuck to us with glue. It's just dirt that is accumulated over our consciousness. And so our awareness must be washed through these spiritual practices. And when that is done, then it comes shining through this brilliance of consciousness. As Chaitanya says at the beginning of his prayer, chant the name of the Lord and his glory unceasingly, that the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean and quenched that mighty forest fire, worldly lust raging furiously within. And unceasingly doesn't mean every moment. It means every day. So before we move on, anything else from anyone? Okay, please go ahead.
Then he said, come, disciples, lead a holy life for the extinction of sorrow. Then again, this noble conduct of life and noble earnestness of meditation have been analyzed into an eightfold path, which Buddha calls the way of peace. First is right view, to understand the first four noble truths. Unless you realize that there is suffering, that it is caused by ignorance, that ignorance can be overcome, and that there is a way of peace, you're not ready to follow the way of peace. And you must have longing, which you will have if you understand that there is suffering. That's the first right view. First is the right view. Second is right aspiration. This means that your efforts are not for yourself only. You wish to attain bliss and to free yourself from suffering, not for yourself only, but to help others to remove the suffering and to live in love and harmony with all beings.
Some of you may have heard of the Bodhisattva. Bodhisattva.
Mm-hmm.
This is the Bodhisattva.
Bodhisattva, yes. That is, wherever there is any tinge of selfishness, there is no truth of religion. Religion makes you selfless and you feel for others. There is love. Third is right speech, that is, truthfulness in word, thought, and deed. As you seek the truth, you have to be truthful. You may say that you can't live in this commercial business world without telling some white lies, but that's not so. I have seen one American woman who never told a lie, but Buddha explains truthfulness by this sentence: abstain from lying, slander, abuse, harsh words, and idle talk. Fourth is right conduct. Buddha emphasizes not hurting any creature in word, thought, or deed. He lays great emphasis upon that. And let me say, this non-injury is not a negative teaching. Not hurting means to learn to love all as one's own self, to see one's self everywhere, to see the Atman in every being, and to love every being. At one time, Buddha was invited by a very rich man, but he refused the invitation and went to a prostitute instead in order to dignify her. In her, he saw no sinner. Fifth is right livelihood. You have to make a living, but you should abstain from any forbidden occupation, such as trading in weapons, dealing in slaves, being a butcher, publican, or poison seller. I would say dope sellers in these days. Sixth is right effort, not to allow distracting thoughts while you sit to pray or meditate, instead to control them. Buddha gives one method, which is also in Patanjali's yoga. In the beginning, watch your mind run after distracting thoughts. Keep watch, be the witness, and then gather the forces of the mind and concentrate. Seventh is right mindfulness. This means seeing the ephemeral nature of everything through discrimination and then concentrating upon the truth that is eternal, focusing on one of the spiritual centers of the body, just as in yoga practice.
Just this has led to a great fad in what is called mindfulness meditation. Just what Ima just read. I'll ask her to read it again.
I'll read again. Yes.
Hang on. And what they do, this center of the breath center of the body they focus on, is essentially the heart, but they focus on it through focusing on the breath, because the breath, of course, and the heart are intimately connected. As the heart slows, the breathing slows. And finally, there are periods when the breathing actually stops, kumbhaka. And this is, in those moments, we have very profound realizations indeed. They may not persist in us after the breathing restarts, because the thoughts intervene between us and what we just experienced. But nevertheless, we are transformed by the experience of having been there. And so, though the thoughts may intervene and distract you, you're not the same person. As the Buddha pointed out, you are not the same person you were a moment ago. This he said to someone who was worrying about what it was going to happen in this moment. And the Buddha says, stop worrying. You're not the person you were a moment ago. Anything else from anyone?
One thing I
Uh,
noticed, Brother Shankara,
yeah,
when you bring the chosen ideal into your heart, anyway, God is inside and outside. When you focus that chosen ideal in your heart, then you we are meditating on ourselves, because I'm in chosen ideal. Whole Our chosen ideal is the universe, so that distracts the all these chitter chatter less. I noticed that lately. I'm just with experience, I'm saying it has
very good.
been reducing the chitter chatter, because you're focusing and witnessing your breath, your tummy going up and down, and then you're thinking that he is in your heart and you are in his heart. So you are in that chosen ideal. That removes the chitter chatter a little bit
Yeah,
less than before.
this is Swami Prabhavananda's first instruction for meditation.
Ah,
Chosen ideal is you yourself,
yourself,
no
exactly.
different. Learn to feel that living presence.
Yes, that
The
re-
chosen ideal is you yourself, no different.
very true.
Learn to feel that living presence. And once we begin to feel that living presence and identify that as who we are, no different.
Mhm.
That's no different from the truth of our being.
That's right.
This is when the breakthrough begins, and we begin to identify with all those things all these different words, uh, uh, Saguna Brahman, Atman, Saguna Atman, um, the witness, all these things.
Yes,
We begin to identify with that.
that's
And so this is, all of these things are integrated.
true.
As was pointed out, what is said by the Buddha is said by Patanjali.
Mhm.
What was said by the Buddha and Patanjali is said by Krishna. What is said by those three is said by Adi Shankaracharya. What is said by those four is said by Lord Jesus Christ and Sri Ramakrishna.
Thank you.
So if we look, we find these same truths in the teachings of all these great teachers. Anything else from anyone before
I was
moving?
I was just going to add that doing actual physical yoga, which involves the inhale and exhale, does shut off the chit chat too, because you're so focused on creating the asana and then transitioning and all that. That I really always stress to my students that it's a moving meditation.
Mhm.
Yes, it is indeed.
Very much.
And nothing yields poise and grace like Hatha Yoga. And poise and grace are a new experience. True, deep poise and grace are an unknown thing to people who don't practice. They may get it through dance, but not in as profound a way as they'll get it through Hatha Yoga. And it is the beginning of an understanding of what grace means and what poise or centeredness means. And so it can definitely lead in the direction of further spiritual practice. Thanks for bringing that up,
Thank you.
I think we're going to have a real good example soon when Yogatmananda comes,
Yes.
in that, I can just look at him and tell that he is in that self within himself, in that inner bliss. And you can just see it in his face, and just, you can see that he abides in that deeper self, in that bliss. And,
Yes, you can, Bhagavan does.
I've my own personal experience, it's nothing to that level, of course, but I'm beginning to realize it. And more, even though I'm going through my day, I'm kind of, I guess you'd say, in refuge in that.
Good.
It's and it helps you to really realize the dissatisfactory nature of the sense in the world, the sensual, perceptions in the world. And but I don't know, but
Yes, you're absolutely right.
I can't imagine what it would be like to be in in that bliss all the time, that level, but I can actually see how you begin to withdraw inward.
Well, Yogatmananda can tell you. Have a private conversation with him. And
Yes.
he will tell you some things that you won't hear anywhere else, because he, like all the other teachers, has his own way of saying these things. And he'll suit that to you. So I recommend to any of you, when Yogatmananda is here, I think he's coming in March, just watch the newsletter and the website for the details. When he's here, see if you can find some time alone with him. He's very accessible. He's not one of these who holds himself back. So just ask for some time alone with him, and just ask him, Maharaj, what is the way forward for me? And then just be very attentive to what he says. You might even ask him if you can record it, if you do that on your phone. Anything else from anyone while we're stopped? Thank you, as always, Bhagavantas. All right, dear.
I'll read the 7th one more time. 7th is right mindfulness. This means seeing the ephemeral nature of everything through discrimination, and then concentrating upon the truth that is eternal, focusing on one of the spiritual centers of the body, just as in yoga practice. And 8th is right contemplation. It is what we call dhyana, meditation. It means concentration of the mind so that there is a continuous flow of consciousness without any break. An illustration is electric light. The current comes continuously and you see a steady light. But if there is a break in the current, the light will flicker. The very nature of the mind is to run from one thing to another, changing all the time. But let the current of the mind flow towards only one thought continuously, like oil poured from one vessel to another. Then there is continuity. Similarly, where there is steadiness, like a flame sheltered from wind, then the noble kind of knowledge arises. Then you're free from suffering and you attain peace. Those are the 8 folds of Buddha.
Yeah, and this is,
Eightfold.
the Eightfold Path, as I said,
The way
has
of
been the path to freedom for millions of people all around the world, but particularly in Southeast Asia, all around the world, and is still taught vigorously today by people like Gareth Young, who not only teach it, but have the command to teach it by their ordination and practice it. I mean, you see in the behavior of Gareth Young, and in the same sense that you see this in Yogatmananda, you see it in Gareth Young. He is poised, he is graceful, and he is full of wisdom because he practices that wisdom. So this is this is not a matter of the Buddha writing, a complicated prescription. No, it's a matter of really a very profound series of medicines that you can take to overcome the disease of ignorance. So anything else from anyone?
You know, it's all the avatars, give prescriptions for purification, and that's, the Eightfold Path is a very straightforward, tangible, means to that.
Oh, yes. Tangible and straightforward. Not any less straightforward than Christ's Sermon on the Mount or Adi Shankaracharya's Crest Jewel of Discrimination, or that wonderful book by that was published under the name of Swami Prabhavananda, The Nectar of Supreme Knowledge, which is a distillation of the wisdom, the same wisdom from the sage Vashishta, or we find it in the Gospel according to Sri Ramakrishna.
The Shanti Gita too is
Yes,
much
oh,
geared towards that.
Shanti Gita, the Bhagavad Gita, the Butcher's Gita.
Which, Sarvadevananda, I'm so far from getting current on it because it's up in the hundreds of classes, but he has a class on the Shanti Gita that's been going for a long time.
Well, there's a reason for that. It's because he knows it so deeply and practices it so thoroughly. That's my conviction. I don't know anything about the class, but I can tell you I know Swami Sarvadevananda. And if he's had a class on the Shanti Gita going on for a long time, it means he practices it and knows the fruits of it and wants to share them with you. So anyone who wants to join in on that can only be a benefit, remembering that Swami Sarvadevananda is our head minister here. And I serve as resident minister. He is our head minister. And for those of you who want to consider taking initiation this year, there's the possibility, it's not yet even a probability, but there's the possibility that he will be here in May to offer himself as guru by giving Diksha. So if you're interested in that possibility, send me an email. He wants you to send it to me so that I can send it forward to him with my assertion that this is a person worth your time to get involved with. They won't just waste your time. So if you're interested in initiation or Diksha, please send me that email and I'll forward it to Swami Sarvadevananda, telling him that you've been attending our classes and so on.
This is just my own personal experience, but going from have never met the man to take an initiation and, less than a year later, I could have never imagined how much that I would love Sarvadevananda as my guru.
Well, this is it. Because the guru becomes the face of the eternal teacher. And the eternal teacher is God itself. And so the reason it's so easy for us to go from that, as you say, not knowing them at all, to loving them so deeply. Any of you want to know my own personal experience and take on that, give me a call on the phone and I'll sing you a song that's a little bit of spiritual autobiography about me and Swami Prabhavananda. Anything else from anyone?
Well, we've been really blessed. He's appeared for our Colorado Vedanta meetings. And
Oh,
we've been so
yes.
happy. Yeah, we haven't seen him for a while. He kind of switches off with Swami Amanda, but yeah, he's really, they're so different, the two of them, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Well, every Swami is very different. It just lets you know about the infinite faces of the divine teacher, of the world teacher, the cosmic teacher. Each one of these Swamis is, I mean, I cannot tell you how different. I mean, I had the divine experience, and I say that word with every conviction, the divine experience of both Swami Prabhavananda and Swami Swananda. They could not have been more different. They simply could not have been more different. And yet the truth flowed from both of them like water from a bubbling, pure spring. Anything else from anyone? What time is it, dear? Oh,
We have 14 minutes, Brother Shankara.
wonderful. I didn't know we had so much
More
time.
time, a couple of more paragraphs we can catch.
Yeah. Anything else from anyone before we go on? All right, dear. Please proceed.
There are two ideals. One is striving, and the other is depending upon divine grace. Throughout the teachings of Buddha, we find that he lays great stress on the ideal of striving, of having to struggle. Buddha insists on taking refuge within oneself, not in any being outside, because Brahman is within yourself. Swami Vivekananda pointed out emphatically that our prayers are answered, but who answers the prayers? You yourself. Very true. He meant God, the divine being. The Atman, which is one with Brahman, answers the prayers from within. So take your refuge in that self within. I'll read this one more time, Brother Shankara.
Please do, dear.
Very profound. Buddha insists on taking refuge within oneself, not in any being outside, because Brahman is within yourself. Swami Vivekananda pointed out emphatically that our prayers are answered, but who answers the prayers? You yourself. He meant God, the divine being. The Atman, which is one with Brahman, answers the prayers from within. So take your refuge in that self within. Nirvana is misunderstood as the extinction of life. It is the extinction of suffering and misery and the attainment of the absolute, eternal life, absolute knowledge, and bliss, the same as Vedanta or Christianity or Sufism or Judaism. One more time. Nirvana is misunderstood as extinction of life. It is the extinction of suffering and misery and the attainment of the absolute, eternal life, absolute knowledge, and bliss, the same as Vedanta or Christianity or Sufism or Judaism. Christians often say that Buddhism is pessimistic and that Christianity is life affirming. But what did Jesus teach? He who loves this life shall lose it. Buddha would say, find it here and now, not after death. We Hindus worship Buddha as an avatar.
Hold on just a minute.
Sure,
What does it mean?
Very
He
interesting.
who loves this life
Yes.
shall lose it.
Because it's going to end at some point. We come, journey, and then we leave. Isn't it? That's what it is. Jesus Christ meant. It's the same thing.
Well, I think it's talking about the attachment.
Right.
If you're not attached to it, you don't have so much sense of loss to anything.
That's
Right.
true. Yes, exactly.
When you truly understand what it is to be alive and who it is that is alive, you love it. And so
Well,
you don't return. You
Mhm.
lose it. You do not return.
well, you
Yes.
realize there's nothing to be lost.
Yeah, exactly. But that realization is not as it's not as easily accomplished as it is said, as you just said it. There's a number of steps to it,
Mhm.
and so as we come closer and closer to that realization, we have less and less of a sense of loss of what we are no longer paying attention to, till there's nothing left, as you said, Bhagavan. There's nothing left to hold on to, nothing left to be attached to.
It's actually, Brother Shankara, without not having deeper understanding of each religion, we think my religion is great, not that religion. Mine is greater than the other one. People constantly struggle about it. It's really not, all of them are saying the same thing in different words.
Yes, and it's interesting that the
Same.
Swami even included Judaism, which
Exactly.
of course is not the kind of Judaism that you find in most synagogues.
Yes.
That's
It's not
it's
explained.
Orthodox Judaism.
Mhm.
It's not even Reform Judaism. It's something called Kabbalah, which is the mystical aspect of Judaism. And the truths that Kabbalah teaches are very parallel to the teachings we've been talking about, which is why, in a word that would have surprised many of his readers at the time that this book, where these lectures were first given, um, uh, that Judaism would have been a surprise to those people. And I'm sure many of them asked the Swami, "What do you mean Judaism?" I've been to Orthodox Jewish services, and they're anything but mystical. So there we are.
Okay.
Like the Shanti Gita and the Yoga Vasishta and all that, they're really just saying the same thing over and over and over and over. But,
Yep.
Sarvadevananda, he talked about that, and he said, we need to hear it over and over and over.
Yeah.
Because basically it's so inconceivable to us that we're not the body and mind, that
And
we just,
the other lesson, the other kind of lesson, that we are the body and mind,
yeah.
over and over and over and over. Yes, you're absolutely right, Mark.
You need to.
But it's that belief in being the body and mind is why we fear to lose our life.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. We suffer, but it's like a masochist. We go on saying, well, it hurts, but I'm going to keep doing it anyway, or have someone keep doing it to me. It's really a bizarre way of being and thinking.
Well, that's one of the first things that the Buddhists teach is, my first teacher, you might say, was Ajahn Chah, who was the very famous forest tradition. And, and that's one of the first things they teach you as a monk is that, it only takes a few seconds to die. And, and that's it. But we live our whole lives in fear of that.
Mm-hmm.
We suffer our whole lives in something that is only a few seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And, and that's not even going into the fact that, once you get that, you're really not losing anything. But it's like when you really start contemplating how much you live in fear of something that is only a few seconds, it really starts to unravel on like, why am I living in fear of that?
Yeah, and it's such an affirmation, that habit of mind is such an affirmation of how our ignorance clouds our priorities. We don't live in the moment because we're living in fear of something that is coming. We don't know when, and it will last a few seconds. What a bizarre way of being and thinking. And yet, we've all been there. We've all been there. So it's that's why we're here tonight, isn't it? So it's to convince ourselves of once and for all that there's nothing, that way of being and thinking has nothing to offer us except more suffering. And then we start on the Buddha's Four Noble Truths, and then his prescription, his Eightfold Path, his prescription for getting out of the suffering, which is so eminently practical. The Swami Vivekananda said of the Buddha that he was the greatest karma yogi that ever lived, which gives us an idea of karma yoga as reflected in the Gita, not karma yoga as we normally think of it, as selfless good deeds. Anything else from anyone? Okay, how are we doing for time now?
3 more minutes for one paragraph, Brother Shankara.
Okay, go right ahead. Then
Right
we'll
up.
start with that paragraph next time.
We Hindus worship Buddha as an avatara or divine incarnation, though we are not Buddhists. I will relate to you a vision, a spiritual experience of Swami Vijnanananda. I heard this directly from him and wrote it in my diary. He said, I went to visit Sarnath near Banaras, where Buddha preached his first sermon after illumination. Suddenly, I lost all physical consciousness. My mind seemed almost to have vanished. I was enveloped in an ocean of light, the light that is vibrant with peace, joy, and knowledge. I felt as it were I was living in Buddha. I do not remember how long I remained in that state. The guide thought I had fallen asleep. As it was getting late, he tried to awaken me and so brought me back to normal consciousness. Later, when I went to the temple of Vishwanath in Benares, Vishwanath means the Lord of the universe. It is the stone image of Lord Shiva. I thought to myself, why have I come here? To look at a stone? When this same vision opened up, it was as if Vishwanath were telling me the light is the same here as there. Truth is one. I will stop here, Brother Shankara. We got 1 minute for a discussion.
Oh, thank you. I will remind any of you who want to be reminded that Swami Vijnanananda was Swami Swahananda's guru. And so anything that you find of Swahananda, you would always say, this comes not of me, it comes from either Vijnanananda or Mother. Those were the two sources from which he spoke. And a disciple right now is listening to Swami Swahananda's talk, which is recorded on the Hollywood YouTube channel. The significance, oh no, it's my talk, I'm sorry, my talk about Swami Swahananda's. And the title of the talk is The Significance of Mother Worship According to Swami Swahananda. And it is really deep, really, not that I am deep, but that the significance of what Swami Swahananda said about mother worship is profound indeed. So anyway, and one of the new disciples coming to our web and Zoom situations is following that. So
I would just say, actually, for people that may not know, but you can actually see old videos of Swami Swahananda.
oh yes,
Like
You
that,
yeah.
there's some from the 70s that are you
And-
can see.
yep, and you will find him talking about the mother. I mean, he'll just be talking about the significance of mother worship. This is how I got those ideas. Is from those songs. All right, dears. Thank you, Bhagavan Das. All right. Our next opportunity to be together will be Saturday at noon, of course. And then there'll be a talk on Sunday. Finally, we'll get around to Chaitanya's prayer, closer to his birthday, which is February 18th. So Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Durga, Durga, Durga. May we be safe. May we be healthy. May we be cheerful. May we have peace of mind. And may that Mother, Father, God that is introduced to us in the opening prayer for these sessions, may we know that that Mother, Father, God has us securely in a loving and protective embrace. Om Hari Om. Om Hari Om. Om Hari Om. So, with that thought in mind, may you all be well and in bright spirits. And we'll see you next time.
Good night, dear heart. Thank you.
Good
Okay.
night to you, dear.
See you
Anything
Thank
else?
you.
Anything else from
you.
anyone? Well, thank you all. Good night and
Bye, hon.
namaste.
You
Good
said
night.
good night, everybody.